Alrighty. Looks like we're a go, everyone. So glad to be here, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We're going to spend the next short while focusing on one specific piece of the accessibility conversation, the ADA tax credit. So today, this is not about legal advice or not about tax advice. The goal today is simpler and more practical. We want to help you understand how accessibility investments can show up during tax season and how the ADA tax credit fits in, and how to have smarter, more confident conversations with your CPA or finance team. So I'm Josh, and I'm really glad that you're here. I'm going to share my story, and then I'm going to throw it over to Sapir to share hers, and then we're going to dive into all things ADA tax credit. So my journey was flipped upside down 21 years ago when I was a teenager. I was on a vacation at the beach. A wave picked me up in the ocean and dropped me on my head, and that day ended up shattering my neck and became paralyzed below my shoulders. I operate a power wheelchair to get around. I ended up going back to school, graduated from undergrad, then graduated magna cum laude from law school. I've been a practicing trial attorney since 2013. I ended up joining the accessiBe family 5 years ago. This month, it's amazing. It's been 5 years. I'm the community relations manager at accessiBe, and I'm a proud father. I have two little kids, got one more on the way in April, but I'll throw it over to Sapir.
Thank you so much, Josh. And hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're sorry about the late start, but we're really eager to get started on the conversation and share some of the information that we know about the ADA tax credit and how we can support you in your efforts in the web accessibility journey. Like Josh said, my name is Sapir Yarden. I'm part of accessiBe's marketing department. I've been with the company for just about 4.5 years now, so tagging along behind Josh. And I started out in our sales department. So I was having conversations with customers and our part agency partners, similar to most of you that have been on this call today. Maybe we even have met before. But I'm really here to answer any questions that you might have and hopefully clarify some information about the ADA tax credit. Um, Today, I work primarily in our brand and community space. So I get to work very closely with Josh. We actually grew up just about 10 minutes away from each other in the DC area. So very fun that we get to work together now. And that being said, Josh, should we get started?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Awesome.
All right. So when we talk about accessibility, we're not talking about a small niche group. In the United States alone, we have 28% of adults living with a disability, and globally, this comes around 16% of the population. This is a massive portion of people interacting with websites, buying products, using services, and making decisions every day. So accessibility isn't about serving a few extra users within your business world. It's about making sure that kind of your digital presence is open to a meaningful share of the market. Next slide.
I'll actually add on to that, Josh, that when we're thinking about the modifications that we're making to websites or the changes that we're making to address a specific user group, they often help a wider community as well, right? So if we think about even in the simplest of terms, simplifying language and making sure that plain language is there for people with cognitive disabilities. That can help so many other users as well, right? People who English isn't their native language, people who aren't familiar with the steps on your website. Can you add something to that as well?
Well, just following the best practices of within accessibility, you open your doors to more and more people, not only to have access, but to have kind of better experiences. So it's like you look at any public transport system where accessibility is added to it. You're making it easier for people that might not have a disability but are pushing a stroller or having luggage or so many different aspects of life. Accessibility is all about opening doors and not closing doors on people.
Well said. Thank you.
So, beyond kind of this population size of percentages, there's also like this huge economic influence that we can talk about. The disability community, when you think of disability, you think of the individual, but the community is the friends, the family members, the healthcare providers, all the people that are kind of the touch points of the disability, and they live through it, they breathe through it. But we're talking about an estimated $8 trillion in global annual disposable income. And the one of the big reasons with accessibility is increasing the kind of the conversation around it so that we can increase growth, customer experience, and especially that long-term brand trust. Statistics have or studies have been done that have found that the disability community is the most brand loyal community out of any population in the world. Because when somebody's taken care of with a disability, they don't forget it. They come back again as repeat customers because too often those doors that are shut, once it's shut, they don't come back again to that business model. But when it's open, they come back again and again. So accessibility isn't just kind of about that risk mitigation that some businesses focus on. It's really about participation and opportunity and opening your doors. Next
And
slide.
also thinking about our colleague Larry, who recently shared his experience of purchasing a shirt from a brand that printed t-shirts that had braille textile on them, so he could read what was on the t-shirt. And the fact that the brand went out of their way to do this collaboration with a blind influencer, that is amazing. But then we dug a little bit deeper. We found that that brand also uses Access Widget on their website. And how fun that we get to then recommend a brand that says, hey, they really live by their values. They're doing a lot of things right, meaning not only are they making their digital assets accessible, but they're also thinking about what they're selling and how they can make it more inclusive for all of their buyers. And I'm sure that from Larry now, they have a customer for life. I know that for me, I was already a customer of theirs, but I can't wait to go back and shop there some more. And that is what you want to hear from a business is that's what you want to that's what brands want to hear from consumers is that people are excited to come back to them.
And they're people with disabilities. They're natural advocates. So when things are good, they share with the world that it's good. But when things are bad, they share with the world that they're bad. It's so much better to be on the good side of that story.
Totally agree with that.
So when organizations invest in accessibility, they often see kind of multiple benefits at once. They reach new audiences, they improve usability, site performance for everyone. So for me, I use a lot of different adaptive devices and I use voice dictation software. So when I go on a website, being able to have the ability to access the site's one thing. But then with the access widget, I have different profiles I can use. I have different customizations that then give me like the power, really the superpower to have that usability side. And when I have good experience, I come back again and again. So it's about building that trust with that customers and partners. And yes, as we like move forward, kind of towards a stronger alignment with accessibility standards and regulations. And finally, one of the reasons why many of you are here today. Certain accessibility investments may also qualify kind of for that ADA tax credit, which we'll dive deeper into shortly. So next slide, we're going to get right into it. So Sapir is going to be now taking over and kind of will walk us through kind of what the ADA tax credit is, who's eligible, and how it works in practice.
Thanks, Josh. Okay. So some of you might have heard about the ADA tax credit. Some of you might be wondering, why did they send me this email? We're here to clarify that information. So the ADA stands for the American with Disabilities Act, which was signed into law in 1990. And at the time, well, in the 90s, websites weren't as commonplace as they are today. So websites weren't necessarily something that was spoken about, but we're here to talk about how you can claim this tax credit and really offset the investment that you're making on improving your website. So eligible businesses can make up to $5,000 in tax credits per year, meaning if you are a repeat customer or an annual purchaser of Access Widget, this is a tax credit that you can reclaim year over year. The tax credit covers up to 50% of accessibility related expenditures. We do have a calculation that will list all of this information for you, and it's listed under Section 44 of the IRS code if anyone wants to go review that information. But we do highly recommend reviewing all of this information with your tax people, with your CPA, with the advisors who are responsible for your tax season. We know that the S Corp deadline is approaching, and we want to make sure that you're prepared for that as well. So the tax credit covers several different accessibility expenditures. As I mentioned, web accessibility is something that has come up more and more as we've seen that compliance and regulations are becoming more commonplace. And that can be something like introducing Access Widget as a tool or a solution for your website. It can also be the audits that you're performing if you are seeking procurement through a government service or working with contractors and you want to have a VPAT, a voluntary product assessment template. That can also be something that you are requesting the ADA tax credit for. There are other accessibility expenditures that you might have as a business. So, whether that's hiring people with disabilities, purchasing adaptive equipment, consulting services, hiring of sign language interpreters, similar to what was happening at the Super Bowl recently, or at big events. If you are a larger organization that might have an event where you are investing in the accessibility of that event, the production of different accessibility formats. So, if you are making sure that you also have Braille at your office or event locations, and the removal of architectural barriers. I know that at our office, we really do try to make sure that everything is as accessible as possible, but also in the event that we need to invest in making something or purchasing additional adaptive equipment, we will consider those as additional expenditures, correct? So all of those are considered under the ADA tax credit. And Josh, I don't know if maybe you've had experiences with any sort of expenditures that you think aren't mentioned here or something that you think businesses might need to be aware of.
Well, adaptive technology like adaptive keyboards, voice dictation software for workers with disabilities. If you need to get a desk that raises and lowers for someone with a disability, the big thing is so many employees have disabilities. They might not have disclosed them, but the ones that do, you're able to then use the ADA tax credit to provide performance enhancers through them, through technology, through accommodations. If they cost any money to you, it's a great way to have your ADA tax credit. Widening doorways, having an accessible bathroom, fixed an automatic button that opens and closes the doors. There's so many different ways of creating more accessibility to your office space or within your digital assets. And especially even having your accessibility audits done every year, there's a win to being able to invest more in accessibility and to be able to get this credit.
And I think there's an important point to be made there as well, Josh, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But when we think about the accessibility journey of a business, we think, oh, this is going to be something that's very heavy, and we have to create the steps and the plans. And this is going to take a lot of budget and resources and effort and time and personnel to accomplish. I know what you would say to that, but I would like for other people to hear what you have to say to that. So, what do you think?
It's the smartest investment businesses can make to be able to welcome in more people, get more out of their employees. And most accommodations cost under $500. And actually the majority of all accommodations cost $0. But then the ones that do are around $500 or less. And it's just the more we build in accessibility, the better experiences we're going to have for our customers and for our employees. So it's a win across the board.
And you got to start somewhere.
You got to. And today's, you don't know what you don't know, but now the more you know, now you have the power to do the next steps to bring more to the table or to actually get that credit that you've been investing all along.
Agreed. So, okay, you're all here to learn a little bit more about this tax credit and how it relates to you. And if you're a customer of ours, or if you're a partner of ours that is purchasing on behalf of customers, or if you're just interested in the web accessibility space in general, we're here to share with you that this tax credit does cover 50% of the business's annual accessibility related expenditures. So if you're on an annual plan with accessiBe, this is something that you can request. It is up to $10,250. The first $250 are not included. So they're not covered, and that means that your maximum credit is half of 10,000, meaning $5,000, and that is what you can receive back annually, depending on the size of your purchase. So, how do we know if you're eligible? Well, there's two different sort of criteria that we're going to talk about, but I want to extrapolate on those as well. If your revenue is under $1 million per tax year, you are eligible. Or if you have 30 employees or less. So I'll repeat that one more time. If you have less than $1 million in revenue, or fewer than 30 employees. Now, some of you might be from smaller organizations that might qualify right off the bat. Some of you might be from larger organizations where you're thinking, okay, well, this doesn't apply to me. So the question is, okay, do you have any entities that fall under your brand or organizations that you work with or any sort of partnerships where this might qualify? And that is something that you can take into consideration. I do have a question from Dan. Thank you. If this PowerPoint is going to be emailed to us, we will make sure to send you the recording as well. So fear not, we will send you all of the information. We'll also direct you to resources about this after the webinar is over. So, as mentioned, whether you're a small business or an agency that's working with a lot of different businesses, these are the two qualifications: less than $1 million or less than 30 employees. However, that could also apply to specific brand entities, child companies that might fit under your brand. How would this work? So we went with the higher end of a Access widget purchase, for example. So if you're purchasing a larger license for $34.90 per year, and then the first $250 are not included, the tax credit is half of what remains, meaning of the $3,240, the tax credit would then be $1,620. I'll let anyone who wants to take a screenshot of this feel free to share your questions in the chat or Q&A with us if you have additional questions, and we'll come back to this in a little bit. I do have a question from Robert Reynolds. If a company that is doing $20 million but only has 20 employees, I qualify? So again, this is a great question to confirm with your CPA or tax advisor, but given the two exact criteria that we've shared today, that is something that you can bring to them and make sure. And by the way, having had conversations with many different CPA firms and tax firms, this isn't something that everyone is familiar with. So we do recommend referring them to the IRS Code 44. But to apply for the ADA tax credit, there's a few simple steps. One, now that you know the business eligibility criteria, you can look into that. You'll find the form 8826, which is on the IRS government website. You'll complete that one-pager form, and then you'll be able to attach that when you submit. I have one more question, which I want to review, which comes from Crystal. Thank you. What do we need from our vendors to prove the ADA expenditure? So that's perfect. When you're working with accessiBe, you do have all of the resources, whether that's an invoice for your purchases, the monthly audits that you receive, or any confirmation of work that you've made on the website. So that can also be client communications. Again, the more information that you have, the better it will be to review with your tax advisor to confirm that you do qualify for this tax credit and can get that amount to offset the expenditure. Some things to keep in mind. This is up to $5,000 per year. If you are on an annual license or recurring fee, then of course you will be able to repurchase it, to reapply for the tax credit per year. But this is only available to U.S. businesses or businesses that operate with U.S. that are applying for tax returns. Only businesses that meet the eligibility criteria will be able to qualify. The information, as mentioned, is available on the IRS website in section 44 or with form 8826. But we do very much encourage you to reach out to a tax professional to get full information and understanding. So Josh, I talked a little bit. I'll let you summarize the main points of the
yeah,
webinar.
I'll take it home and do a quick recap. So there are three big takeaways from today. First, accessibility is a smart business decision, and it's not just a compliance checkbox. Second, the ADA tax credit can help reduce the costs of making that decision. And third, many businesses already qualify even if they don't realize it yet. So I know we were answering the question before, but it's as long as you satisfy one of those two criterias, meaning $1 million or less in the prior year, or 30 fewer full-time employees in the prior year. So yes, if it's 30 or less, and obviously speak with your CPA, but 30 days is one of the two qualifying criteria. So this isn't just about kind of doing everything at once. It's about kind of understanding your options and making informed, confident choices. And I'm so glad that you were able to be a part of this presentation with us. We're going to roll over to the questions and answers, but I'm so glad that you guys were able to kind of learn more about the ADA tax credits with us.
Thanks, Josh. Okay, so we are open for additional questions if anyone wants to share them in the chat or the Q&A functions on Zoom. I do have another question that has come up in the past for us, and this is about agency partners. So if your agency is purchasing on behalf of the client's website, who is eligible to request that tax credit? So from what I've understood from conversations with CPAs is that if you are the person purchasing the website, and you're not being refunded for that purchase from an agency or from a client, then you are eligible for that, or you're able to apply for that tax credit, of course, if you're eligible. Um, if you are an agency that is purchasing on behalf of multiple clients and you are also receiving refunds from your clients per the amount that you've paid, then you can also put in the request for that tax credit on the remainder amount. So there is a lot to be said for the different options when it comes to the ADA expenses or the accessibility expenses that you have and how they might qualify for the ADA tax credit. And for that reason, we hope that this information was helpful and informative for you to then share it with your tax providers or tax advisors and to move forward with the tax credit and hopefully be able to receive that the credit to offset the expenditure. Josh, was there anything that you wanted to ask before the end of the webinar, or were there any questions that you had relating to what we've discussed today, or any final points you want to make?
I'm a big believer of education and awareness building, everything we can do to like let the world know how to bring more accessibility into their world. So teaching people about accessibility through your websites, through your storefronts, you name it, these are such important conversations to have. So the more we talk about it, the more accessibility we have in the world. And that's a world that I know it changes my life each and every day, so I'm so grateful when accessibility can be built in. And then having these tax conversations with other businesses that you know of and encouraging them to not only bring more accessibility to their everyday life, but knowing that there is ways of saving money at the end of the day as well. So it's a win-win, and yeah,
I
I
think
would
my favorite point that you mentioned today, and it's something that I'm familiar with, but this is something that I really hope businesses take with them at the end of the day, is that most accessibility accommodations or costs are $500 or less,
yeah.
mostly less. So when you're thinking about making your business a more inclusive space, you have a lot of options and flexibility to do that. And that's something that we're very happy to discuss with you as well, especially myself and Josh. But hopefully, for the purposes of your website, whether that's moving forward with the Access widget solution that you have on an annual basis on your website to make sure that any user can find the accommodations they need to match their needs for your website, the audits or VPATs that you're conducting in order to move forward with procurement processes, or also just other services like remediating your PDFs or videos. All of that would be considered under the ADA tax credit. And we do hope that you consider that as we're moving in further and further to tax season, and you're working closely with us. So for future questions or anything else that we can support, thank you please don't hesitate to reach out. We'll make sure that you receive the recording. We'll send additional information as well. And thank you to everyone who joined today's session.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sophia.